I don't know. This is where I come in here and I just relax and I just spit facts, you know.
All right, let's get to it.
Ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you?
It's time to flip a coin and find out.
Well, we need to know what we're calling it for here.
We're calling it to see who's got the best sports knowledge here on the Coin Flip with Martin Kelly
and Jacob Zimmerman.
Flip it again.
Yes! Episode 26 of the Coin Flip. Welcome back.
You are taking over the intro part, and you know what? I'm actually kind of enjoying it. It leaves a little bit less responsibility for me on the podcast.
I'll take it. So, Martin, you have this beautiful rundown for us. I'm going to get through it. With the NBA All-Stars for LeBron versus Team Durant have been selected. They had the selection show the other night. LeBron dissed the Utah Jazz. And the contestants for the skills competition, three-point contest, and the sad dunk contest came out. We will talk all about that. Then we'll head over to the NFL where J.J. Watt signed with the Arizona Cardinals. We'll get into that. We'll try to break down why he signed with the Cardinals. And then, is Dak Prescott worth $44 million? Jumping back on that Cowboy news. And then we'll head over to other sports. Martin's going to take it away with MLB and NASCAR, and then we'll talk about Dixie athletics, baseball, football, basketball, volleyball, and softball, and then the rant after that.
Yeah, you got the rant this time, Jacob. You got a little idea what we're going to be talking about?
I will decide as this podcast is going.
You know, you like to do that. I understand that. Like, you just like to think on the fly. I'm a little bit more of like a person, like I gotta like think about it like a day in advance because I have to have all the notes for it.
For these topics, yeah, I try to have a little bit more preparation. But for the rant, I almost feel like the rant is something that you just need to speak whatever comes to your mind, you know?
Yeah, I like it. All right, let me hit that NBA button. Let's get this started.
Doncic pulls up, three-pointer. Bang! Bang! It's good! Doncic wins the game at the buzzer! It's off to Leonard, defended by Simmons. Is this the dagger?
Here's Michael at the foul line. A shot on Elo. Good! The Bulls win it! They win it!
3 and 2. LeBron to win the game. He does! He does!
The ball comes in. Cody's got it. Above the three-point line, taking a little bit of time. One dribble pull-up. For the win, he's got it! The Lakers win!
McKee gets it in the middle for the win. It's there!
With two. Wade puts it up for the win. Yeah, baby! Oh, my, we are witnessing one of the great players to ever play in this league. And, man, I hope it lasts for another 7, 8, 9 years, baby.
7, 8, 9, 10, 20. I say it every episode.
Every single time, what would it be? That little counter from you, Martin.
Like, it would just be it would just be sad if, like, NBA players only played a couple years. It would just be totally, totally sad. Like, we wouldn't, like, enjoy them for, like, an extended amount of time.
I was looking at some Wnba stats, actually, oddly enough, and I was noticing that their careers are shorter, and that just goes to show how impressive Sue Bird, who is, I think, in year 18, maybe going into year 19, how impressive that is for her.
Her, and I think it was like Candace Parker signed with the Chicago Sky, the team in Chicago, Illinois. I think she's in her like 15th or 16th season as well. She's been playing forever, and you're not wrong. Like, the only person I can think of who's had a long career is Deladon, who plays for the Washington team right now. I think she's been playing like 7 or 8 years, and she used to play for Chicago Sky, and I met her one time too. She's really
freaking. Deladon?
I met Deladon because I was working for the Chicago White Sox. She came over for an event to like challenge a fan for like a dunk contest, right? They were just like dunking and like shooting and the baseball field, and they're having fun with it and all, like, and I just saw her for like a couple minutes. I talked to her for like a minute, just like, how you doing and all this, and like, what's going on with the team. She's like, oh, we're doing great, this and that. I'm like,
quick story with Deladon. So I was looking at her stats because, like, all right, who's the best WNBA players right now? And I noticed she's not on the list. And I'm like, why is Deladon not on the list? So I'm checking her stats. She didn't play in 2020. I'm like, why didn't she play in 2020? Did she have a baby? Point is, the WNBA did not accept her sort of opt-out request for the year because of COVID, and she has Lyme's disease, and they just pretty much told her, no, you have a contract to abide by, and so she had to forfeit the year. I think she forfeited the contract, and that's just sad to see the WNBA killing off their few and minimal stars that they have.
The NBA can only pour so much money into that program, and I get it. Like, the NBA is like basically funding them, and I get it. Adam Silver is doing the best he can, but at the end of the day, you can't kick off your best stars. So anyway, let's move on to the NBA. The NBA, not the WNBA. We'll talk about them a different day for a different dollar. Let's talk about the NBA All-Star teams, Team LeBron and Team Durant. For Team Durant, he selected Bradley Beal, Kyrie Irving, Joel Embiid, Kawhi Leonard, Jason Tatum. Mike Conley was added late after Devin Booker had to pull out of the All-Star event. James Harden, Zach LaVine, Donovan Mitchell, Julius Randle, Nikola Vucevic, and Zion Williamson. For Team LeBron, it's Giannis Antetokounmpo, it's Steph Curry, it's Luka Doncic, it's Nikola Jokic, it's Jaylen Brown, it's Paul George, it's Rudy Gobert, Damian Lillard, Domantas Sabonis, Chris Paul, and Ben Simmons. Jacob, we all know how big of a LeBron James fan you are, but we also know how Kevin Durant is one of the top 3 best players in the game. Looking at this roster, sadly, Kevin Durant won't be at the All-Star game because this would be a whole lot more fun with him, but who has the better team, LeBron or Durant?
I think every year that they've had these All-Star selections, LeBron has drafted the better team. No surprise to me, as lots of fans like to call him Le GM, kind of for the wrong reasons, because they have a problem with him having a little bit of a say in that front office. But I think if you are a top 10, 5 player in the sport of basketball, in the NBA of all leagues, you should have some of that power. And we see, once again, the other night, LeBron had his GM skills on fleek. He got Damian Lillard, and he wasn't even a starter. And they have Luka, Jokic, Giannis, and Curry. I mean, Curry and LeBron fans can finally come together. The years of hating each other have been there, but I think LeBron fans and Curry fans have always respected each other. But it was kind of once KD came in the mix, it ruined everything. But I think LeBron had the better team. I'm excited to see this matchup. Not a whole lot of solid predictions we can do because you just never know how much effort is going to be there from these guys. But last year, obviously, probably the best All-Star game competitive-wise in our lifetime. And that'd be awesome to see something like that. I would love if they could have those cameras like right on the sideline, those moving cameras like they did in that one All-Star game. That'd be awesome. I think it'd be also great to have the players wear their home jerseys and have the other team wear their away jerseys. I think that looks cool out there on the court. And then I'm hoping it's that same Elam ending where you have to get to a certain amount of score. I think that's kind of cool how time is no longer a factor and you're just playing to a score, kind of like pickup. And I think it's going to be a fun event to watch.
So I do agree with you when it comes to home and away jerseys. They used to do that. If you remember watching The Last Dance, they were all wearing their either home jerseys or away jerseys, and they had the moment with Kobe Bryant. Rest in peace to Kobe Bryant. I remember that episode.
I feel like it was 2003 when they started doing a jersey.
Yeah, and I didn't disagree with it, but after a few years, I mean, it's just... I mean, you can only put Team LeBron and Team Durant.
Yeah, you can only have so many different designs.
Exactly. I think they should go back to those. I would like, if they did that, they should go to basically retro jerseys. Why not throw some throwbacks into the All-Star game as well? This is fun. Why not, with the Lakers, throw back to the the Minnesota Lakers style, or with the Knicks, go back to the old school 40s style with the Knickerbockers look, or with the Heat, go back to the Rocket legitimately on the jersey as well. You might as well, if you're gonna have fun with this, you might as well throw some retro throwbacks because it's the All-Star break. I mean, at this point, we're just having fun. It's how it goes. I agree with you. I think Team LeBron did the smart drafting. Obviously, when finally, when Dan Gilbert decides to sell the team to LeBron James, the Cleveland Cavaliers, like the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to win championships after championships after championships because LeBron's going to be smart enough to know who to pick and who not to pick. Like, he's just going to be that smart. So when it comes to current players, I don't think there's anyone in the league more active in knowing who they are than LeBron himself. I think he has legitimately like an ear or an eye on every single player that plays in the game. He has people going to every game for him because that's just who LeBron James is.
There's a reason when coaches call out, the coaches will call out fake sets, fake plays, and LeBron will look over and be like, "You guys don't have that play."
Like, he knows everything. There's not something LeBron doesn't know. And that's how, like, give credit to LeBron. That's how smart he really is. Like, he is beyond just, like, basketball on a floor smart. He is so IQ smart with the game itself in every aspect. Like, it's impressive. So I do agree. Team LeBron had the better team. I mean, Giannis, Curry, Doncic, Jokic, Brown, George, Gobert, Lillard. I mean, he's got shooters all over the place. I understand Beal went for the more, aggressive players, but I will say one thing. It's going to happen one day. And I wish Durant would have forced LeBron to do it. Mm-hmm. LeBron James is going to have to draft Kyrie Irving one day. He's going to have to draft him just one day. We're going to have to see that
maybe as that last pick in the schoolyard,
It would be so much fun to see that.
Speaking of last picks, Utah Jazz, Gobert, Donovan Mitchell. I'm surprised Donovan Mitchell slipped all the way down to the last pick. I had him as a starter given their record.
And throw in Mike Conley, who just got picked up this morning for the All-Star game. But LeBron went to say, well, when you're playing 2K, nobody decided to play with Utah back in the day. And I'm just like, wow, that's some real shade right there.
He's not only dissing the current Jazz, he's dissing the 90s Jazz.
He's dissing the entire state of Utah. I mean,
if I grew up in Utah, I might feel a little upset by that. But nevertheless, this is motivation for the Jazz. I think the Jazz and the Lakers could potentially meet in the playoffs. We'll have to see how that seeding all goes down. But the Jazz are looking pretty good this year, so who knows? That could be their motivation.
That will be either a second or a third round pick. All right, let's move on to the skills competition here. Skills competition events, the 3-point contest, and the dunk contest will all continue as scheduled for the All-Star break. The skills competition and 3-point contest will happen on Saturday afternoon, Saturday night, and the dunk contest will happen at halftime during the All-Star game itself, so we'll see what goes down with that. Your skills competition competitors will be Robert Covington from the Portland Trailblazers, Luka Doncic from the Dallas Mavericks, Chris Paul from the Phoenix Suns, Julius Randle from the Knicks, Domantas Sabonis from the Pacers, and Nikola Vucevic from the Orlando Magic. Let's touch on this just for a minute. Jacob, I'm a fan of the skills competition. I like to see bigs, and I like to see guards, like how they can handle the ball. Like, obviously everybody in the game now is like centers have gone from just they don't have any ball skills to, Nikola Jokic, Nikola Vucevic, Joel Embiid are some of the best bigs with some of the best handles of any bigs I've seen in a long time. It's pretty impressive to see a mix of bigs and guards try to compete, isn't it?
I'm surprised that there's some big names here in the skills competition, but then we'll get into the dunk contest and there's nobody. But anyways, you got Chris Paul and Luka Doncic. Those are two guys who I expect to finish 1 and 2. That would make sense here in this kind of competition. Can't lie, I don't really watch the skills competition. I don't think a lot of people do either, but it's kind of a for fun event. I think whoever takes it the most seriously will probably win, but I think the favorite's got to be Luka and Chris Paul.
I agree with you on that. I think don't be surprised with Domantas Sabonis. I think he's got some skills. He does got some skills.
He does. I could see a guy like that winning.
At first, he was drafted by the Oklahoma City Thunder, so I was like, ugh. And for the first season, I'm like, this guy is a bust. And now that I've seen him grow into a true star, I'm like, Well, I could
Victor
use,
Oladipo, Jeremy Grant,
I could
all
use
those guys.
I could use those guys right now. All right, let's move on to the 3-point contest. I think which has passed the dunk contest as the number one event of the All-Star break. Mike Conley, Steph Curry, Zach LaVine, Jaylen Brown, Donovan Mitchell, and Jason Tatum will compete on the 3-point line to be the 3-point contest winner. What do you think about it? And let's throw out an early pick here. Who do you got winning the 3-point contest?
Well, it's Curry versus the world, of course, but we know, I think the last time Curry was in 3-point contest, he didn't do so hot. So I think Curry should be the favorite. I'm going to stick with Curry just because the odds are in his favor, but I would not be surprised at all if Zach LaVine won this. He's really turned it up. He's gone from the dunk contest to now the 3-point contest, and his percentages reflect that. He is kind of turned the narrative around from him just being a player putting up good stats on a bad team to a legit player who has really good efficiency across the board.
I was going to pick Zach LaVine as well. I think it'll come down to Zach LaVine, Steph Curry, and I think Donovan Mitchell can be one of those guys that can surprise somebody. We've seen Donovan Mitchell grow up on the 3-point line the last 3 seasons. He didn't have it his first year. He didn't really have it his second year, but now in his third year, like, he's grown up on the 3-point line. He's gotten better every single season.
He's hovering about 40%.
And he's put in the hard work for it as well. I mean, his rookie year, he wins the slam dunk contest, and now he's competing in a 3-point contest. Same thing with Zach LaVine, a guy that we just thought as, a great dunker in a game and can put up 20 points here and there, but now he's an all-around true efficient player that can play with some of the best players in the game. So, congrats to them guys. All right, finally, let's get to the dunk contest. Only one person in this dunk contest I'm actually excited to see, but I don't think he's going to put up that amazing dunks. Nonetheless, your 3-point dunk contest contestants are Obi Toppin from the Knicks, Alfernay Simons from the Portland Anthony Simons from the Portland Trailblazers, and Cassius Stanley from the Indiana Pacers. Jacob, let's make this real quick before we move on to the NFL. This has got to be hands down one of the most boring dunk contests in a long time.
It has 2 guards. Neither who are known for their hops either. Anthony Simons backs up Damian Lillard. Has kind of been overshined by Gary Trent Jr. as well. And then Cassius Stanley, I believe he went to Michigan State, correct?
I think so.
He was a really good point guard there, but no one has ever thought of these two as dunkers. Now, Obi Toppin is a different story. If you see some of his highlights from Dayton, oh my God. But he's definitely going to have that
aggressiveness.
I'm looking for the right word. That appeal, that visual appeal. It looks better when you have those small guys rise up. They get more hang time, more air. Some of the bigger guys don't have as much time in the air to do all these fancy tricks, but Obi Toppin can go between the legs. We'll see what he can pull off, and he's going to have that power. I think looking at the lineup right now, Toppin should be the favorite based off of what we've seen him do in college, but really just kind of a disappointing dunk contest. I don't know why there's only 3 in the contest. This doesn't make sense at all. We know how these owners don't want to have their star players go into the dunk contest, but why couldn't you have Derrick Jones Jr. back in this? I mean, he would destroy this lineup.
Derrick Jones Jr., Anthony Edwards Jr., John Morant, Zion Williamson.
There's so many.
Even at this point, you might as well throw Russell Westbrook in there. He can still slam it down with some of the best guys in the game.
Why isn't Dennis Smith Jr. doing this?
I don't know. This is why I'm...
this is their calling card right now.
This is the main event before the All-Star game. This is why we tune in to watch.
It's going to be at halftime of the All-Star game, which I think is going to be fun. Hopefully the players, I talked about this on the last podcast, the players can come out and sit on the sidelines during the dunk contest, and hopefully you can have some more fans in there, because if there's no fans in there, it's going to really take away from the fun.
Yep. All right, let's move on to the NFL. Let me push that button.
Ice up, son. Ice up.
Sanders still on his feet. Sanders is gone.
Barr with daylight and time goes for the whole thing. Touchdown! Green Bay leads
Leon left. No.
DeLone fires to an open Smith. Steve Smith is going to go all the way. No flags down. Smith scores, and the Carolina Panthers win in overtime.
6 seconds. Murray heaves it downfield. It is caught. It is caught. DeAndre Hopkins.
He did what?
Nice up, son. Nice up.
So we heard Ian Eagle there on the call for the Arizona Cardinals as the Hail Murray took place. And speaking of those Arizona Cardinals, Martin, who just signed with the Cardinals?
J.J. Watt signs with the Cardinals this past week. 2 years, $31 million. 26 of that guaranteed for 2 years of J.J. Watt's career after he was released by the Houston Texans. And I'll say this off the bat. Defensively, that team is scary. Isaiah Simmons, Patrick Peterson, Chandler Jones, Budda Baker, and now J.J. Watt. That is scary. But the question I have left here, Jacob, is besides Murray, besides Hopkins, who else do they have on offense that can compete? I mean, like, this is the question I have left for the Arizona Cardinals. Like, they have no tight ends, they have no running back, and Christian Kirk looks more and more like an extreme bust. Like, Larry Fitzgerald is more effective than Christian Kirk, and Larry Fitzgerald is older than dirt. I mean, he's been around forever. I mean, like, I just don't understand what you got to do for Christian Kirk to get alive in this offense. I understand Kyler Murray can play. I understand Hopkins can play. They got a good offensive line. They got a good offensive scheme. But do they have enough offense to compete with the NFC West? I don't know.
You hit it right on the head there, man. I mean, Cardinals have some defensive standouts. I think the key reason that J.J. Watt picked this team is that he didn't want to be one of those snakes that just goes and joins the team that just won the Super Bowl to try to get a ring. He didn't want to hop on that Brady bandwagon in Tampa Bay. And so he decided to go to a team that was on the verge of contention, but not only on the verge of contention, but they are improving as Kyler Murray is a young quarterback. Patrick Peterson kind of on the back end of his career, but still was probably the best corner of the entire 2010s when you look at of the entire decade. But when looking at why Watt made this move, there's kind of a lot of teams that I think he considered, but at the end of the day, he just couldn't sign with. Some of these teams, the Steelers, they have issues there at quarterback with Big Ben. Miami also needs better play out of Tua, and with Ryan Fitzpatrick, you don't know kind of who's going to be that definite starter. Buffalo, really good, but I know JJ likes that warm weather. Buffalo is too cold for him. The Saints, is Drew Brees out? Is Taysom Hill in? What about Jameis? Too much confusion there. The Packers. Now, I think he really considered the Packers, but at the end of the day, Aaron Rodgers is great, but the Packers have too much dysfunctional things going on in their organization and can't sign anybody. But Arizona is on the rise. They have a potentially scary offense here and there. It wasn't as good as we might have thought, but I think Murray is going to continue to take those strides. I think you could make an argument that Kyler Murray is a better player than Lamar Jackson. Now, would most people agree with that? No, but Murray is probably almost just as fast and can throw the ball maybe a little bit better than Lamar. But diving into some of these stats in the team defense last year for Arizona, they were ranked 12th in points allowed. They had the fourth highest blitz percentage at 39.4% of plays. So 4 out of every 10 plays they're blitzing. That's really going to help out J.J. Watt because he wants to win, but we know he wants to climb up that sack list as well. This is a good place to be able to do both. The only problem, you're in the toughest division in football.
I don't know if he's ever going to catch 200 because 200 is a lot. And Bruce Smith, man, he played for a long time, and long enough that I don't think anybody's ever going to catch Bruce Smith for that one, too. To the NFC West just itself, I think the NFL needs to change the name of the NFC West to the Air West because, Los Angeles Rams throw the football all over the place. The San Francisco 49ers like to throw the football all over the place. The Seattle Seahawks want to throw the football all over the place. And now you got Arizona that wants to throw the football all over the place. Like, everybody is just going air raid on the West Coast.
I got one for you, the NFC best, because they're the best division.
I don't know about that. I think they're the most exciting to watch. I don't know if they're the best. Like, yeah, we can look at last season where they legitimately had all 4 possible teams looking like they're about to be in the playoffs, but Arizona had a collapse towards the end of the season. Los Angeles didn't. The Rams didn't look particularly good towards the end of the season. Seattle got out to a bit of a slow start in the second half of the season, and San Francisco was banged up all over the place where they just weren't healthy at all. To J.J. Watt itself, I think this is a good move, but you bring up the points, like, why didn't he sign with Tampa? They were going to offer him a good paycheck. Why not go back home to Green Bay and go play with the Packers, or go play with your brother up in Pittsburgh? Or, Cleveland was reportedly offering him $35 million. Tennessee was offering him $31 million. There were some better offers on the table. I think J.J. Watt thought in his head, you know what? Let me go team up with DeAndre Hopkins. Let's reunite this cohesiveness right here, and let's go win us a championship. But also the question I left in my head is, when was the last time a team from a dome won the championship? And I thought back to that. It was the 2009 New Orleans Saints. Since then, no team from a dome has won a championship. Not the Arizona Cardinals, not the Atlanta Falcons, not the Detroit Lions, not the Minnesota Vikings.
Certainly not the Detroit Lions.
Certainly not them. Not the Minnesota Vikings, not the St. Louis Rams, who were in a dome and are now in a dome in Los Angeles. No dome team has won a championship since 2009.
Almost all those teams have lost in the Super Bowl.
And most of them lost them in domes. The Rams lost one in the Georgia Dome. The Falcons lost one in the Houston Texans at the NRG Stadium. I mean, no team from a dome has won a championship. And when you got to go on the road and play in cold weather places like Chicago, like San Francisco, like Seattle, like Green Bay, or you got to travel to coastal places like Tampa Bay or Carolina, or trying to think of other teams from the NFC.
Miami.
Miami in the AFC, but you get my point.
Okay, yeah.
I think the Cardinals will be a good team. I think they can win 12 or 13 games, but how are they going to do in the playoffs? I don't know. All right, let's move on over to Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys. Their interesting conversation continues as reports finally came out that said Dak Prescott and his agent want $44 million a year, Jacob. That is right behind the man himself, the legend himself. He ran for 500 yards in the Super Bowl before he was contacted. Patrick Mahomes, who makes $45 million a year. So the question here is this. It's a two-part question. Is Dak Prescott worth $44 million? And is he right behind Patrick Mahomes?
He's definitely not the second best quarterback in the NFL, but is he top 10? I'll give him top 10. I'll give him fringe top 10. Now, here's the thing about contracts in sports. If someone's willing to pay you a certain amount of money, you're worth that much. It's just plain and simple. So if there's a team out there that's willing to pay $44 million to Dak Prescott, which I'm sure there's a couple who would, that forces the Cowboys' hand, and they have to match those offers. So Dak has had so far a pretty good career. Last year, he really took that next step, but then the injury happened. He was averaging 371 yards per game in 2020. That's a ton. 78.7 QBR, 9-4 touchdown interception ratio, and a 68% completion percentage. Now, the Cowboys did not contribute to this to wins whatsoever. They were always playing from behind. I think that's why his stats are kind of a little inflated. But at the end of the day, the Cowboys and Dak Prescott have been going back and forth for 2-3 years now, it seems. And every year, Dak and his agent are going to ask for more and more as the market goes up, as they should. But we know the writing on the wall is that Jerry Jones is not going to pay Dak Prescott. It's just not going to happen. I think Dak is honestly better off trying to get out of there, trying to get to a different team instead of trying to work on a deal. It is the Cowboys, but if your goal is to win a Super Bowl, you need to get out of there.
I 100% agree with this. I think this goes back to Dak Prescott's rookie year, actually, when Tony Romo got hurt. Basically, that ended his career. He wasn't going to come back. Jerry Jones loves Tony Romo. He loved him so much, like he was his own son. And when Dak Prescott stepped in and was the shining light for the Dallas Cowboys, led them to a 13-3 record, almost got a win, almost got to the NFC Championship game against the Packers. If it wasn't for Mason Crosby, miraculous field goal that ended that right there. But ever since then, there's been a friction in, is Jerry Jones in love with Dak Prescott? Does Jerry Jones want Dak Prescott? Is this just, was it just a 1 year where he was like, all right, Dak will take over, but Tony Romo will come back and we'll get Tony Romo in here, and Tony Romo didn't come back. And I don't blame Dak Prescott for looking around at himself and being like, well, you paid Tyron Smith a lot of money. You paid Zach Martin a lot of money. You paid Ezekiel Elliott a lot of money. You paid Amari Cooper a lot of money. You paid Jalen Smith a lot of money. You paid DeMarcus Lawrence a lot of money. Where's my paycheck? Where's my payday? And Jerry Jones keeps coming back and saying, well, we want to pay you, but you got to take a discount. You got to think about the Dallas Cowboys. Like, what? Another problem with this is the Cowboys don't have the cap space. They only have $20 million in cap space this season. On top of that, if they don't sign Dak Prescott to a contract, franchise tagging him is going to cost them $38.5 million. Yeah. So they are like in a no-win situation. You either sign him and you cost yourself a lot of money and you got to cut players to get under the cap, or you sign him to the franchise tag and you're still screwed because you got to come back the next season and work on a contract because you can't franchise tag him next season. He'll just walk. So the Cowboys, and I'll throw in Dak Prescott is in here as well, have both screwed themselves. Why is somebody from Dak Prescott's camp releasing the amount of money he wants? He had the leverage all the way up until this point, until he released the money amount. We always thought was, well, he wants around $40 million. What's the number? What's the number? What's the number? What does he want? And no reports came out and said how much money he wanted. So then we're all like, well, is it Jerry Jones or is it Dak Prescott? Who's the one that's acting like a jerk in this situation? And now that we know the money, we're like, oh, both of you are acting like a jerk. Both of you are screwing each other in this situation. I think Dak Prescott's a really good quarterback. I think he can go out and play for someone successfully. Everybody keeps looking at him as like, oh, he's just a game manager or he's not really that elite quarterback. Like, you do realize when he got hurt in week 6, at week 10, he still had more yardage than some quarterbacks were playing healthy during that time. At week 10, he had more yardage still than Baker Mayfield at that point in the season. And Baker Mayfield went all the way to the playoffs. I mean, he had, like, that's incredible.
Something I don't understand is the NFL is a copycat league, but why is nobody copycatting Tom Brady's pay cuts? He won a couple Super Bowls that he would probably not have been able to win if he did not take some pay cuts. Having to add a few more extra players on the roster is really crucial when you're trying to make that salary cap work. And if you can get your best player to not take a max, that is a huge difference. You're going to be able to sign a couple more guys than you thought you could and maybe get a few more big-time free agents in there as well. So I think if these guys really want to win the chip, and Dak is playing for the Cowboys and getting all these endorsements all over the place, he's going to get plenty of money off the field, maybe more money off the field than any other quarterback besides Mahomes, Brady, and Rodgers. I think you got to take that slight pay cut. Don't ask for a max. Obviously, you want to get every dollar that you can in most situations, but when it comes to winning, how important is that?
It is. It is important. I consider that. I mean, Tom Brady is the outlier. Tom Brady didn't take a whole lot of money. He went to a really good team already built around him. Same thing with like Peyton Manning. He didn't take a whole lot of money to go to to Denver to go play with that elite team either. I don't know. I mean, some players decide to get paid, and some players decide to, you know what, I'll take less money to go win some more championships. I mean, a.k.a. Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan never took the most amount of money, nor did Ginobili, nor did Parker, and they have 5 championships. And, you know, a little shade at LeBron James. He always gets paid the X amount of dollars, yet he's still trying to,
But he's still got the rings for it.
Yeah, he's still trying to chase that one ghost in Chicago. Anyway, let's move on to the other sports here on the podcast.
You believe in miracles? Yes!
20 years of trying, 20 years of frustration. Dale Earnhardt will come to the caution flag to win the Daytona 500. And the ball is free. It's picked up by Michigan State's Jalen Watts Jackson, and he scores.
There's the pass to Leitner. Puts it up. Yes! With Konerko up. And he rips one into left. Konerko, grand slam.
So I do want to, as I'm like talking away from the mic, I do want to talk about, Jacob, do you know that first part of the other sports, the Miracle on Ice, that 1980s Olympic team that beat the Russian Soviet Union?
Yes.
So, sad news out of that. Mark Pelvich, who was on that team himself, died this week at the age of 63. He's one of the few members of the team that has passed away. Brooks Herbst, obviously the head coach, has passed away about, I think he's been gone for about 20 years now. But nonetheless, Mark Pelvich was one of the members of the Miracle on Ice team himself. Rest in peace to Mark Pelvich. He was 63 years old. But nonetheless, to that point, have you ever watched that moment either with Al Michaels screaming, "Do you believe in miracles?" Yes!
I want to say I watched a movie. It was like one of those based on a true story, and it was about the college hockey players trying out for the U.S. team, and they were going against professionals from these other countries, and then they ended up winning it at the end. So kind of know the story, but I don't think I actually saw the actual game.
So, yeah, so you're talking about Miracle from Disney. I've watched that movie a dozen times. I love that movie a lot. It's a great story. I haven't watched the game entirely, but I've watched that moment where Al Michaels screams, "Do you believe in miracles?" Yes! It's an amazing, amazing moment. All right, let's move on to the MLB here. Manager of the New York Yankees, Aaron Boone, is taking a step away from the New York Yankees to receive a pacemaker. Aaron Boone is only 50 years old and has had open heart surgery at the age of 48, which is a bit scary. He's been the manager for the Yankees for the last 3 seasons. Hopefully he recovers healthy-wise and is ready for this upcoming season here. Definitely don't want to be having managers and head coaches having heart attacks on the sidelines. Definitely don't want to be doing that. Let's move on to NASCAR here. William Byron gets his second career win of the season. His first win of the season. His second career win overall. With his new crew chief, Rudy Fugle. Fugle was his crew chief when he was in the Truck Series with William Byron. Rudy Fugle gets his first career win as a crew chief in the Cup Series. Congratulations to him and the 24 team. This weekend, they'll be racing at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway on Sunday. They'll go from there. They will go to Phoenix next week. It's going to be a good race this week. That 1.5 mile, still dusty and dirty track of Las Vegas. The Nellis Air Force backstretch, the front stretch. It's a really cool track. One day, I'm going to take Jacob to go see a NASCAR race. I know he's never seen a NASCAR race in person, but one day,
let's do it.
One day, we're going to get you to go do that, my man. Also, let's talk Dixie State Athletics here. I'll get Jacob to talk about basketball and football here in just a minute, but let's cover the other sports here as well. Volleyball got swept by Utah Valley this past week. They lost in both sets. One went to 5 sets and one went to 3 sets, but Utah Valley was just a better team over the volleyball team. Their next series will be against Tarleton State on Monday and Tuesday. The softball team swept UC Riverside yesterday for 2 games. Their final game is in action as of now. They are beating UC Riverside 3-0 at the moment. The women's soccer team, they fell to Seattle University this past week 2-1 in overtime. The women's soccer team still looking for their first win of the season. They're 0-5-1 on the year so far. Not a great record for them at all. Jacob, I remember, what was it, my 7th grade year? I played football for the first time, and we went 0-9, and it was just like downright just terrible, dude. It was
I've been on teams like that, man.
It was just an empty feeling in your stomach. It's like taking a loss is one thing, but when you cannot get a win, like for the life of you, it just like downright brings everybody down.
You think 0-9 is bad? My middle school team, my 8th grade year, we went 0-16. We went 0-16. The good news, though, is that so we played 8 teams twice. So first set of 8, and then the schedule restarted. And when we played the teams the second time, we were much better. It was a closer game each time. The coach was like, you guys have improved a lot. But nevertheless, could not get that win.
It drives you nuts. It absolutely drives you nuts. You're just like, how are we this close and we can't get a win?
I mean, my intramural team this year didn't win a game. Just a lot of good parts just did not fit.
It would drive me absolutely up a wall, man. I don't care if I'm playing intramural or playing professional. It drives me up a wall when you can't get a win. I want to win. That's just my mentality for it. All right, let's move on to the basketball teams. They lost last night, 77-67. Hunter Scopio's 20 points last night just was not enough for Dixie State to come back. Yet again, they struggled in the first half and the second half. They fell behind New Mexico State in the Aggies. Tonight is senior night for 4 seniors on the team. Jamar Ergrass, Dacian Youngblood, Jared Green, and Hunter Scopio will all be honored tonight for being seniors. Their families are down here. They'll celebrate with them for their success in basketball. But
props to those 4 Dixie State athletes there. But the good news is that a lot of our best players are not seniors this year. So that's good news going forward for DSU.
And they all could come back next year because, remember, NCAA gave a pass.
Yes, you're right.
They all gave them a pass to say, it will count you as a senior, but if you want to come back next year, you are willing to come back next year. We will bypass that rule if you finish your 5th or 4th year. So who knows? Everybody might come back. Everybody might be better next year with Cameron Goonan being a senior next year, with Frank Stain being a junior next year, with Isaiah Pope being a junior next year, with Schofield and Green being back.
Nichols will be a senior, I believe.
Yep, and that team would be amazing. But nonetheless, we can only hope for that. But they have Game 2 tonight. It is senior night at the Burns Arena. It is going to be a good one. Game 2 between the Aggies and the Trailblazers. We'll have that game alive here on Radio Dixie 91.3. Let's move on to the football field, Jacob. Football is in action tomorrow. It's not in action today on a Saturday, which is very convenient for me because I don't have to come in here on a Sunday. It's on a Sunday at 3 o'clock. The football team will be traveling to play New Mexico State in El Paso, Texas. If you're wondering why are you playing a team from New Mexico in El Paso, Texas, well, New Mexico and their COVID-19 restrictions, they've kicked legitimately every collegiate program in the state to say, get out of here. You're not playing collegiate sports here. We're not having
Mexico.
In New Mexico. No one can go.
Of all places, New Mexico.
Listen, I'm not the mayor. I'm not the governor. I'm not the representatives. I'm not the senators. I'm just a reporter, okay? Do not kill the messenger. Anyway, they're going to be playing in El Paso, Texas at the Sun Bowl. If you remember, the Sun Bowl always hosts the Sun Bowl game every single year for the college bowl game. So it's going to be exciting to see Dixie State in a legitimate D1 big-time Division I football stadium. They're going to be taking on New Mexico State tomorrow at 3 o'clock. This is coming off their first win in D1 after they beat Tarleton State 26-14 last week.
And it was a beatdown. They were supposed to get blown out. Martin, you said they were 27.5-point underdogs.
Yes.
And they completely reversed that around and won by 12. So what's really key about this game is that Tarleton actually killed New Mexico State, correct? They killed New Mexico State earlier in the year, and then Dixie came and beat Tarleton State. So that's good news as Dixie still might not be favored. It looks like it is NMSU minus 12.
What?
So they are supposed to win by 12. If you were into sports betting, that should be a good game to bet for Dixie State.
I mean, Dixie State should have won. We talked about this last week on the podcast. Dixie State should have legitimately won like 35-0 or 35-7.
Yeah.
That's what it should. That's
one of those touchdowns was a kickoff return touchdown.
Yeah.
So
let's forget about the kickoff touch return. Let's also, I mean, listen, Dixie State had 2 opportunities with 2 turnovers inside the red zone. They cost themselves both of those turnovers right there. Wilstead got a fumble off a contact of himself, and they had 1 turnover that couldn't turn into points, and they were that close last week to legitimately shutting out someone on their first D1 debut day. So
beautiful day.
We'll have that game live tomorrow on Radio Dixie 9.3 with me and Jacob on the call. Jacob, it is your first play-by-play day as a play-by-play caller. I'll be just
for football, yes.
For football, I'll just be the commentator and just having some fun touching the tablet and looking at stats all day. But nonetheless, Jacob, let me hit that red button, rant button. Let's get this over with, buddy.
It's time for the moment you've been waiting for.
The one, the only, the rant.
Oh, you're about to go blasphemous.
Fighting a scorpion, and that is final.
Will you two shut up?
Oh my God, I don't care.
You will when we're done talking about the rant here on the Coin Flip with Martin Kelly
and Jacob Zimmerman.
I have decided the rant for today a couple minutes ago, and boy, this one is going to be a good one. Was not in our rundown today in the NBA because of the All-Star event, but perhaps what is more important in the grand scheme of the NBA for who's going to hoist that trophy in June, or whenever they're going to do it this year because of COVID. Blake Griffin reached a buyout with the Pistons. Finally, Blake Griffin has been wanting to get out of there. He had a career year back in, I believe, 2018 with the Pistons, but since then has been injury-ridden, but not been able to stay on the court. And me and my roommate Miles were watching TV, and we were seeing advertisements, and I don't think you know about this. Blake Griffin is coming out with a new show that he is hosting, and I thought this was going to signal his retirement, but I was wrong. Blake Griffin is now in chip-chasing mode. So, now that it is finally out, he was the 8th highest paid player in the NBA this year. Wow. Nowhere near the 8th best player, that's for sure. But he finally reached that buyout, and the Nets, Lakers, Clippers, and I believe the 76ers were also in that mix of teams that were interested. Now, off the bat, Shams reported that the Nets are the favorites. This move to the Nets could really shift the balance of power in the NBA more than it already is. The Nets are probably favored to win the chip just based off of their star power alone and how well they're doing without KD. But could you imagine a lineup of Joe Harris, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Blake Griffin? Wow, that'd be a unbeatable 5-out lineup. But here's what I'm really ranting about, Blake. Blake, you feel the Clippers did you wrong. You feel that they said that they wanted to keep you a Clipper for life, and then they turned around and traded you to the middle of nowhere. Blake, you have a chance to say F you to the Clippers and sign with the Lakers and go win a chip. How perfect would it be if he just stuck that finger right to the Clippers and signed right next door, right upstairs, not in the basement, and won a chip with the Lakers? Boy, Blake, I can see it now. Come cover up for Marc Gasol, who's playing like trash. Oh, make it happen, baby.
Okay, so first of all, I love your rant. I do. Let's cover one thing here. In the middle of nowhere, what do you consider Detroit, Michigan to be like a complete and total just like disastrous like hole in America? Like, yes, ladies and gentlemen, here is the whole of Detroit, Michigan. There's nothing here at all besides snow and just dirt and M&M sitting on a pile of cash. Nothing else here.
When you're used to being in LA, Detroit is certainly the middle of nowhere.
You know what? Go screw yourself. The Midwest is a lot of fun. I'm from the Midwest. Okay, I've been to Detroit. It is a really cool place. I love it there. To your point on him touching on the Brooklyn Nets, we also had this conversation, you and I privately, when DeMarcus Cousins got cut by the Houston Rockets. I think he did. I think
he hasn't been signed yet.
He hasn't been signed yet. There's been rumors where he's going to go from that point, but we had a conversation about that. I told you Boogie Cousins got cut by the Rockets and potentially was either going to sign with someone like with the Clippers or with the Nets, and you went off on me for like 2 minutes like, I hope he does not sign with the Nets. This is total bull crap. This is not fair. This is not – no, listen. I enjoy this.
Oh,
I enjoy
of course you do.
The loathness to just stick it to LeBron James and like prevent him from getting 6.
What is Blake got to be mad at LeBron for?
I'm not saying he's got to be mad at LeBron for nothing besides the fact that LeBron is just LeBron and Blake has been Blake. But if he signs with Brooklyn, if he signs with the Clippers, if he signs with the Lakers, if he signs with anybody, what real impact does Blake Griffin have at this point? That's all I'm asking. What true impact as a player does Blake Griffin have besides rebounding?
Stretch 4. Stretch 5.
I mean, but he can't shoot particularly.
He can shoot now.
He's not that great at it. You can look up your phone right here. He's not that great of a shooter. Are you really going to trust him to be that stretch 4 and shoot? Really?
Let's pull up these stats real quick. I mean, Basketball Reference is the holy Bible of the NBA, and in 2020, Blake Griffin. Oh.
Exactly!
Jeez, Blake. You went from shooting 36% from 3 in 2019 to basically on the same attempt shooting 24% from 3.
So,
wow.
Again, I asked the question. What does he add to a contending team? That's my only point. If it's besides defense and rebounding, that's okay. I get that with like the Brooklyn Nets because they need defensive help. They need rebounding help. They're one of those teams that needs it. But if he goes to the Lakers, if he goes to the Clippers, teams that run up and down the court and expect you to shoot and expect you to pass and expect you to be in the right spot at the right time, what can he add? That's my only question on the offensive side of the ball.
I think when the playoffs roll around, we saw everyone who had counted out Dwight Howard last year. Dwight Howard played really quality minutes for the Lakers, and he did his role, and he was an impact player, and he stepped up and showed little bits of flashes of what he used to be. Blake Griffin might be able to show a little bit of flash of what he used to be. I don't think he's washed, but I think he can still add a little bit more, especially for the Lakers and the Nets. They're kind of missing some inside presence, and he could add just a little bit more of that, and that experience is really going to be key in playoff runs.
He may be able to add that flashiness that he used to have, obviously, the flying Clippers. I mean, those were just awesome teams to watch, man. They were awesome back in the day. So anyway, it's the coin flip. That's Jacob over there in the corner.
That's Martin across from me.
I mean, 26 episodes, dude. We've been doing this for a lot of episodes. I think we're close to about 70 episodes. I think we've done that many episodes.
70 total from the old. You think we're up to 70? I would say we're about 50.
I would say between 50 and 70. I think we're about there because we've been doing this for about a couple years, minus the fact that we were off because of the COVID-19 pandemic. I think we're about that close. Anyway, that's Jacob. I'm Martin. This week podcasted immediately here on Radio Dixie 1.3 and the podcast productions over here. Have yourselves a good day. Peace.
Peace.